Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn English, chapter number 4, India and its scientific journey. Now, children, do you know that, say, imagine yourself without any devices or machines, for example, like fans, mixer, grinder, or television. You need these all machines to in our day-to-day life to make our life more comfortable and easy. So these devices makes our life more comfortable and easy. Let us see the contributions which were made by the Indians previously, okay, and which creates like India, the country which we live in, and its scientific glory. What do you mean by scientific glory? The achievements through science which they have achieved. These scientists which have achieved their goals or achieved things from in their past. Basically in this lesson they have mentioned all the scientific glory which were achieved in India by the various people or the various scientists, you can say. Now let us read the lesson, chapter number 4. It's on page 15. We owe a lot to the great ancient Indians. As you see, the old history also gives a proof of this that the Indians were renowned scholars and have done a lot of achievements were being made by the Indians, who taught us how to count, without which the modern scientific discoveries would have not been impossible. Now let us read the extract by Albert Einstein. We all dread the syringe, don't we? Now what do you mean by dread? That is scared. Okay, to be afraid. Now if you go, for example, when you're sick, you consult a doctor. But when a small child goes to the doctor, he gets scared, he gets dread, because he's afraid of the syringe or the injections which he is going to get. So he gets scared of the doctor, that the doctor is going to inject him. Alright. So it is feared by every child but used often by the doctors. Now why is this syringe or this injection useful? Because it is through medicines which helps to cure the disease quickly or fast, you can say. Now it is, and due to medical technology has advanced so much that through syringe or through this we can inject a person and make the person's illness cured soon. Why? Because it's a great medical device. Now syringe is a great medical device which is being invented during the ancient time. Medical equipments means things like syringe look scary but are vital to modern medical science. Now, what do you mean by vital, children? It's important. It is important. Now, for example, imagine if you, there would have, in the olden times also, there were no proper hospitals built and all, but these people were very, in the ancient times, were also very well versed in medicals and all. Through Ayurvedic things and all, they tried to cure people. But there were no proper well-built hospitals. But due to these equipments and all, nowadays in modern scientific in modern science, these syringes are very useful to us. Now, medical equipments was in fact a great importance thousands of years ago as well. So now it is not necessary that now only these medical equipments are important, but also during the previous time also. But how could medical and surgical equipment be of any importance at a time when there was no modern technology, no knowledge of surgery? So they knew that they had the equipment, but they did not have proper knowledge how to utilize it or how to do it. But they had invented or they had used this medical device. Now, but how medical device and surgical equipment be important at the time where there was no modern technology or no surgery, no knowledge of the surgery? Well, the ancient Indians knew a thing about Think or two about medical science and surgery. What is medical science and surgery? Now medical science, these docters, those who have become MBBS and all, they study medical, okay, and they come to know what is the cause and the illness through which and how a person need to be cured. Now, in the 6th century, now they have given all the description of the various scientific the scientific glories of various persons they have mentioned in this lesson. Now the first scientific glory which they have mentioned is about the Shushruta. Okay. Now the ancient Indians knew a thing or two about medical science and surgery. In the 6th century BC. What do you mean by BC? Before Christ. An Indian physician. What do you mean by Indian physician? Indian doctor, you can say. Okay. Named Shushruta wrote one of the first works of medical science. So the first person who wrote about the medical science was Shushruta. It describes several surgical instruments that look like or identical, similar, you can say the modern ones, which look like identical, you can say, of the modern ones, as this was more than 2500 years ago. Now you imagine that 2500 years ago they had made equipments which are still look like identical. The text goes one step further and talks about techniques to cataract. That is, in Hindi it is called as cataract surgery, plastic surgery, and tooth removal, and many other vital procedures. What do you mean by vital? Important procedures. Imagine all this would have done at a time then when there was no modern technology. Shushruta was the Indian physician who wrote about 1120 illness and 700 medicinal plants. So he wrote about 1120 illness. So what illness and 700 medicinal plants. Owing to his contribution to the science of medicines, Shushruta was well known or popularly known as father of surgery, or you can say father of the Indian medicines. Now let us read about it. Let us read the number 1120 again. It reads as 1120. Now related to science, the Indian physician, they have given about the Indian physician Shushruta. Now let's go to the mathematical part. They have given the scientific glory that 1120 was written or read as 1120. How do we know that the first one stands for 1000 and the second one stands for hundreds? This is because of the place value system. If you have studied in maths, we have place value system where first is thousands and then hundreds, tens and units, or you can say ones. This system as it used today was well developed by the ancient Indian mathematicians. The numerals 1, 2, 3 and so on also trace their origins, that is their name or where they started of the ancient India. This way representing numbers is known as Hindu-Arabic numeral system. So this 1, 2, 3 was known as the Hindu-Arabic numeral system, the way of representing numbers was known as. This system was made by the mathematical calculation and which made things much faster and easier. During the ancient time also there were abacus and all used which made our calculation easier and faster. Now let us don't forget the zero, the number that represents nothing. Now as I said, 0 doesn't have value, but if you add 0 to some numbers, it has a great impact. The idea of a number to denote nothing also originated in India, but if alone 0 indicates nothing, it does not have any value. The oldest text denoting a zero was written in the manuscript. What do you mean by manuscript? A very old written work. Okay, so basically zero was being denoted in the manuscript, which was made from the bark of a birch tree. The manuscript was also known as Bakashali manuscript. This concept was used by the Aryabhatta. In many of his works, he wrote the Aryabhatta in the 5th century and the concepts of the place value and zero to calculate the value of pi. Pi is actually, this symbol is being used as pi in maths language. Okay. And work on trigonometry. Trigonometry is useful and it's an algebraic term used for calculations. Aryabhatta was also known as an astronomer. He was among the first to mention that the moon shines by reflecting the sun's light. Aryabhatta is credited with measuring the circumferences of the earth. Circumference is the outer of the earth's surface, so you can say the outer covering. If the earth is in sphere shape, or some geographical people have said that the earth is in circular shape, some say that earth is in sphere. So the outer sides of the circle, or you can say that is known as circumference. So circumference of the earth, and one of the first to assign the start of each day to midnight instead of sunrise. So he was the first person who had started measuring the circumference of the earth, which led to the start of each midnight, that is the night time, instead of sunrise. Aryabhatta's work was taken further by another ancient Indian mathematician named as Brahmagupta. So the second mathematician was named as Brahmagupta. He was the first to write down the rules of using zero in calculation. So he was the person who had laid down the rules for using zero in the calculation. The popularity of this numerical system, the popularity of the numerical system, the discovery of zero and the value of pi, and the developments in trigonometry and astronomy traveled out to India and the Arabian world, where they further studied and refined. Okay, so these were being further studied and being used in various mathematician work for the calculations. So it was used in trigonometry as well as in astronomy when they traveled out of India to the Arabian world. Now the Arabs use these gifts from India to make more accurate maps. So this helped to make them more accurate maps. This calculation or this numerical work helped them to make the work accurate and to draft maps in, as it is called as of the worlds as well as of the heavens. The basics of modern mathematics, that is algebra, geometry and decimal systems, are the products of the Indian minds. So algebra, geometry is maths used where all the geometrical figures or all the figures and theorems are used in the geometrical terms, and trigonometry and various sums, equations and all are used in algebraic terms, and decimal system was also being introduced. Are the products of the Indian minds. Throughout Europe and the Arabian world, countless architectural wonders were well built using sophisticated mathematics and geometry, which find the roots in the ancient India. So what do you mean by sophisticated? It means that highly developed and complicated. So the zero system rules were used and they were basically classified into algebra, geometry and decimal fractions. Now first we learned about the Indian physician, now mathematics. Now coming to the third part, that is the Indus Valley civilization. So when it comes to the architectural and engineering, India is replete with architectural wonders of its own. The Indus Valley civilization is one of the oldest urban civilizations. So it is one of the oldest civilizations. of the world and is credited with many inventions. There are many Indian in the Indus Valley civilization, like the Great Bath, the granaries and all. Now here people obtained extraordinary accuracy, and during that time they were measuring items weights being introduced, which was helpful to measure the length, time and the weight. Here people have obtained extraordinary accuracy in measuring length, time and weight. The Indus Valley residents are the people who reside, were the first people who had used ruler to measure the length and the weights, and also and the world system of uniform to measure and weights was also established by them. So the world's first system of uniform measures. What do you mean by uniform measures? Means the same measures. And weights were also established by the Indus Valley civilization. So, and the Indus Valley people built neatly planned cities. So they had plans, or your town planning, you can say. They were well, and there were citadels and the lower towns, then they were well built. So this evidence gives an architecture that the engineering and the structures which were built were well planned. The Indus Valley people built neatly planned cities, which was the first time in the world had sophisticated drainage system. And even the drainage system in the Indus Valley was so well built that there was no seepage and all. And in the Great Bath, where the public tanks were used, but the drainage system in every houses which were connected to the bathrooms or the kitchens were being well planned and then drained into the main drain on the roadside. And sanitation system. Many scientists and architects consider them to be better than the modern Indian drainage system. Archaeologists are the person who excavate the remains of human body and who study about the remains of dead plants and animals. Have found the evidence. What do you mean by evidence? That is a proof of drilling into the teeth in the remains of the Indus Valley, making them the first one to practice dysentery, dentistry, considering that these people lived around 5,000 years ago and their contribution to science and architecture are extraordinary. So this gives an impact that Indus Valley civilization have also given a contribution to science and architecture. Now, in the 6th century BC, the Indian metal workers became renowned. Renowned means well known for Wood's steel. This kind of steel was a scientific wonder. So it was a scientific wonder. Why they have mentioned, they have given a reason, because as they produced weapons that were tougher and sharper than any other weapons in the world. So they were tougher and sharper. And one more extra feature you can say, that Wood's steel was so popular that it was exported to many parts of the world. Another meteorological wonder is the iron pillar in Delhi. Was such built that more than 2000 years the pillar is renowned because it does not rust. Now renowned, so it has been 2000 years but still the pillar has not been rusted. Means it has not been, like if an iron is wet or it is kept for a longer period of time, it's tried to gets rust or gets spoiled. But this iron pillar is not being rusted. So this is an special feature which people about this pillar. For hundreds of years, no one knew why the pillar did not rust, and it was recently that scientists have worked out the logic behind its rust precedence nature. Now, due to modern technology, now they're finding out logically why has these iron pillar not rusted. It's no secret that India has an unrevealed scientific past. So the tradition of scientific inquiry and inherited by the modern scientists, like, so the modern scientists, they have given names of the various modern scientists like Jagdish Chandra Bose, Subramanian Chandrasekhar Raman and many others who have received appreciation. Appreciation means um, you can say a person who has achieved something, you appreciate, you tell good thing about it, or who has renowned and become famous. You appreciate their hard works. And fame means famous from the global scientific community. So these about, we have studied about the two mathematicians, then we studied about in this chapter the Indus Valley civilization, then we have studied about the meteorological wonder of the iron pillar, and the Indian physician, that is Shushruta. Now there are various questions which are there in the textbook. You read the questions, you read the lesson well and write it in your notebook.